So there's a lot of different reasons that you might like a book. You can like the plot, you can like the settings, you can like the characters. I'm personally a very character driven person. I think the characters make the book. And so even if a character is a bad guy, you could still like that character or you could still be cheering him on. So I'm going to talk about my three favorite characters. Feel free to comment whether you agree or disagree, or if you have different people in your top three. So to start this off, I'm going to talk about Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. So there's a lot of good characters in a lot of Brandon Sanderson's works. I just don't think any of them come close to Sazed. So Sazed is my favorite character at a minimum in the Mistborn trilogy. I would say he's definitely in some of my favorite characters of all of the Cosmere novellas and books together. He is, to me, the MVP of the entire first trilogy. He is the MVP because at the end of the first book, he saves Vin. At the end of the second book, he holds the line basically with his strength and his aura alone. And at the end of the third book, he becomes Harmony and takes the powers of ruin and preservation and combines them together and is holding them as the vessel. So without Sazed, none of this works, and ruin would essentially take over the planet. So that's why I like Sazed, and he's my favorite character in basically all of the Cosmere. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. So I read this about 10 years ago or so, and honestly, I remember a whole lot of it still. Now, I also watched the TV show. I actually watched the show first, watched the first 4 seasons, then I read the books, and then I finished the show afterwards. Jaime Lannister has got to be one of the most compelling characters in the entire Game of Thrones series. He starts off and you're like, dude, I hate this guy. I hope he dies. In the second book, he loses his battle to Robb Stark and you're like, yes, Robb Stark, let's go. And then from there, you realize like, oh my God, there is like so much nuance to this character and his progression throughout the 5 books into what he is in the 5th book. Now, don't get me started on whether or not we're going to get a 6th book, but his character arc has to be one of the most interesting character arcs of any character in fantasy. And he can be so caring, I guess, and so thoughtful, especially with all of the things he's experienced by getting dropped down basically to being a prisoner or a slave, and his journey with Brienne, right? And I just think that the lessons that he's learned and the loss of his right arm, which is his dominant arm, I think really show a side of him that you probably wouldn't have seen otherwise. But that really leads him to, in the 5th book, being basically one of the better characters in the story, because the story is full of a lot of dark characters, a lot of characters that want to do a lot of bad things, have a lot of nefarious purposes. And he ends up becoming really not one of those characters. So that's Jaime. Last but not least, this has to be my favorite character in fantasy. Ruin by John Gwynne, Faithful and the Fallen. You guys may have read it. If not, recommend. Definitely one of the best book series I've read so far. Camlin. I love Camlin. To go from book 1 to where Camlin is basically a character that you kind of just think is going to get thrown away as a bandit. He has like a random kind of like intro arc where he's just kind of in the woods, really not doing much. And then you find out he's part of a bigger band. He's not even the leader of the band. You're like, oh, this dude, he's like, his character doesn't even matter. You know, we've seen characters like him all the time. He's going to get killed off pretty early. And even, that even almost happens in the beginning of the first book. And you're like, oh, yeah, all right, whatever. This character is meaningless. And his progression through books 2, 3 especially, it's just like, oh my God, like this character is amazing. Like, I don't know how, because John Gwynne is really known for his battle scenes and how realistic they are and how he can take you seamlessly through all of the thought process of the different characters in his battles. But for him to write a character like Camlin, and I like Camlin more than I like Corbin. So, and Corbin's the main character, right? Camlin has just such an amazing way of looking at life, and the way he looks at life that changes, and his perspective and the way that he is with the villagers that are killed in the later books, and the way that he has the little girl that follows him around and how that changes him. I love Camlin. He is my favorite fantasy character right now of all time.